well. So
Yeah, I mean, me personally, I don't really like walking from Earls Court unless I have to. Maybe I'm just lazy. I'd rather get the
maybe
easy
you won't have
Fulham
to
Broadway.
walk far from Earls Court
say,
in the
hopefully.
future anyway. So
Well, that's
yeah.
if we
Things
were to
things
that's
actually go
true.
well for this club.
Right, we've obviously qualified into the next stage of the Conference League. Round of
Great.
applause for Chelsea.
Semi-finalists in Europe.
Yay! Yay! I can't wait. Stockholm trip.
We're going to Sweden, mate.
Oh yeah, Djurgården, or whatever they're called.
Legitimately, I'd never heard of them before.
We've lost to Legia Warsaw, but we are still through.
But you got to look at the positives, mate. We're into the semi-finals, so it's okay.
Could have been a lot worse.
Cucurella scored 6 goals since December.
We could have been out.
First loss since 2020. Well, actually 2021 in the quarterfinals, by the way.
That is, correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, that is, I think, the first away win that a Polish team has ever had in England.
Oh,
an English
wow. That's not a record.
It's also the first time we've ever lost a game at home in Europe outside of the Champions League.
Nice.
Because both times when we won the Europa League, we were unbeaten, I think. Well, certainly at home anyway.
Yeah, we were
under
unbeaten the whole Europa League.
Yeah, but under Sarri, we were unbeaten completely.
And then Benitez, I can't remember.
Oh, yeah, we still won anyway. But yeah, a bad day at the office, to put it lightly, wasn't it? It was a bad day. But you know what? I wasn't even that surprised. I was saying to a few people outside that I didn't think we'd go through, but I said to a few guys, like, I wouldn't be surprised if we lost tonight.
I am a little bit surprised,
surprised.
especially the strength of the lineup.
With the strength of the lineup, agreed. That's before I'd see the lineup. When the lineup come out, you're sort of thinking, I don't understand what he's doing at the moment. Like it feels like that even though we're only a point outside the Champions League, I think that Ipswich draw basically was the point where everyone realised, fan base within the club as well, that the Champions League's not happening. And the priority is the Conference League. And you can see by his team selections, you can see by the Brentford team that he picked, that the priority was the first leg. And you can see by the team that he picked last night, that he viewed that second leg, even though we were 3-0 up, that was viewed as more important than the game against Fulham on Sunday. And from the manager's perspective, right, if he is to go at the end of the season, which is far from a certainty, if he is, it's far more beneficial for him to have the Conference League trophy on his CV than it is to have a top 5 finish on the CV. So from a managerial perspective, for him personally, having that trophy on the CV is far more important than qualifying for the Champions League.
I think that this is the thing as well. I mean, if that is true, and that is the mentality that Maresca has, which I don't really know.
We don't
to
know.
be honest.
We don't know.
It's all hypotheticals, but if that is the case, then that is an even more damning indictment of where we are as a club, because the mentality from the top, we've spoken about it. Obviously, it trickles down. The sporting directors, we will be speaking about them. But I think ultimately they have instructions, and they carry out instructions that they're given. They've got a lot of limitations with what they can and can't do. Maresca actually has a lot of freedom. He can play whatever style of football he wants to play. He was brought in to manage this team. He's not in charge of transfers. He's not in charge of other things, but he selects the players. I don't believe that Sanchez is a political player in the starting 11. I don't believe that people above Maresca make those decisions. I really don't. And he is proven to be more incompetent week upon week upon week. And weak is probably the best word I'd use to describe him. He's got a weak mentality. The fact that he's prioritising a competition that we should be winning with our B team, our C team, I would argue it's harder to lose a Conference League than to win it. I mean, it should be that simple for a club like Chelsea to walk through this competition. But now I'm having conversations with Nina, who obviously does a little bit of work with UEFA, and she's been watching Real Betis and teams like that. And she's saying, Alex, I don't know, the way we're playing and the way that I see some of the other teams playing, whether we can even win that competition.
I genuinely think if we played Real Betis with the way we're playing, we're losing in that final.
I genuinely
Fiorentina, I think we're fine. Real Betis, I think we lose.
I disagree. I think we play both teams. We're going to be losing regardless.
Yeah, well, I think that's fair as well. Do you know what the mad thing is, right? If Warsaw had played how they were, like how they did last night in the first leg, they would have knocked us out.
Oh, yeah,
they would have
100%.
knocked us out over 2 legs.
Oh, yeah.
And like the biggest concern for me is, right, it wasn't the fact that we lost, it's the fact that we lost with the strength of the team that we put out. because when you look at the team that we put out, and like you've got Cucurella starting, you've got Reece James starting, Jackson, Nkunku, Palmer, Sancho. You know, you've got all these players starting who are first team players. You bring on Madueke, you bring on Gusto, all part of the first team squad, all first team players, and that is the best that you can produce. And then you've got Reece James coming out afterwards saying that we didn't prepare properly for the game and we disrespected the competition. Do you know how abysmal that is? And
how can you disrespect the competition playing your best?
And this,
how does that work?
No, I think he means I think they meant the opposition.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
okay.
But like, do you know how disgraceful that is to be at the training ground all week and to not prepare for a game properly, to openly say that you've disrespected the opposition, and how that's been allowed to happen and that's okay? Mate, where are the standards from the squad that that's okay? Where are the standards from the manager that that's not allowed? Like, could you imagine that happening in previous eras of Chelsea, disrespecting an opposition, you know, not preparing for a game properly?
I think it's more to the fact that they treat every game it doesn't if that is a final. I think that the first leg when we went 3-0 up, they get way ahead of themselves. They get too much comfortable. It's just that in the second leg, some of the players they don't look they want to bother to play. Look what happened yesterday. Look at Palmer. Look at Jackson. They didn't really care. They didn't want to play.
See, I don't really necessarily buy this notion that the players aren't trying. I really believe.
Mate,
that,
you believe they're trying from yesterday's first half?
I believe that the manager, being as clueless as he is rubbing off on the players. I really believe that, and I think that, you know, like you say, Palmer's not trying. I don't see a player that's not trying with Palmer. I don't see that. I don't see that with Nicholas Jackson. Those are two of our best players. I see players who are losing confidence, who are out of ideas because the manager is out of ideas. He doesn't have any new ideas. I mean, Maresca was asked point blank. He said if Palmer and Jackson don't score any goals, do you see Chelsea? I think it was finishing in the Champions League. And he said no. And they said, is it as simple as that? And he said, yes.
It is as simple as that. It really is. But this is why I cut the manager a little bit of slack, right? We've all seen that we've missed the most big chances in the league. This comes down to a recruitment issue. If we had put the money on the table to sign Victor Osimhen, we would not be sitting here having this conversation about whether we can qualify for the Champions League or not. We would more than likely be where Newcastle are right now. We would be third or fourth in the table with maybe a 6 or 7 point gap on those Champions League places. So whilst the manager's not done good enough, and whilst the manager has got to improve and has let himself down, we've been awful for 4 months since Christmas, and he's done nothing to try and change it, the reality is, if a centre forward was signed in the summer, we would be having a totally different conversation.
Scott, I mean, what did you take from the game?
I think there was a lack of motivation or lack of concentration, whatever you want to say. Mentality from the players was pathetic. I think the mentality from the manager was pathetic. I don't know if any of you saw his comments after the game. They're a joke.
Anything in particular?
There was 2 things. Number one, he said that Fulham is a final, which I find embarrassing, that we have to say that as Chelsea Football Club. That's embarrassing. Number 2, and I'm paraphrasing, I can't remember the exact quote. He said something about how it's difficult and we have to learn how to rotate with all these games that we have to play.
He said he's learning, didn't he?
Learning.
He said, yeah,
Well, he is learning, but to be fair, he is
we
learning.
are halfway through April. What do you mean you're still learning how to rotate? What do you mean? You rotated an entire team against Newcastle to dump us out of the cup against a team that we literally beat days earlier because you had to rotate the entire team. What do you mean you're struggling to rotate? You don't know how to rotate. You're learning when to rotate. We've all said you could have played the C team in that game. Bunch of youth players had the same result, got through, fine. Reece James played another 90 minutes. He's not going to play against Fulham now. Fantastic.
They won't play against Fulham. But the Reece James thing is strange, right? Because I understand that he's managing his minutes. But at the same time, why is he not playing a single minute against Ipswich? This is your captain, by the way. Why is he not playing a single minute against Ipswich, but then he's playing 90s in the Conference League?
As a midfielder.
But what he is right now is 2 reasons he's playing as a midfielder. One, because he is the backup to Romeo Lavia currently right now. And secondly, because it's a fitness thing. But what do we sign? Why couldn't Matisse Mugu play in midfield last night?
There you go.
This brother was
Why
signed...
did we sign him?
He was signed for decoration. He was signed for decoration, and he was basically signed to be Andre Santos' replacement at Strasbourg. That's why he was signed. But you telling me that guy, who we signed for 12 million quid from St Etienne, could not play in midfield against the team 5th in the Polish league when we're 3-0 up? Is that what we're saying?
When I was walking into the stadium, you see some of the sort of I don't know what you call it. It's advertising for the club, but it's not like a banner. It's like a virtual one on a screen.
Oh, yeah.
And I saw Vega, I saw Mark Guiu, and I thought, bloody hell. Like, I don't recognise any of the players that are representing this club from a marketing standpoint. This is the direction that we're moving. I'll give you a second. and I, for me, like, we're building the team around players. You said this yesterday, Charlie. You know, the players should do a lot better. My opinion, though, is that we have a squad that's capable of pushing for Champions League. We were in a position, even if our manager was, let's just say, a serial bottle job. Let's use Poch as the example. Everyone likes to talk about he's Spursy. Like, I just don't see many managers falling as far as we have fallen under Maresca, given the position we were in at Christmas. Like, it's so hard to go backwards to the level and the extent that we have gone that I don't even feel that. Anger is not the right word. Like, we've sat here after, do you remember when we had the protest, and I felt a lot of tension just within this room talking about Chelsea. I don't really feel that way. I feel like everyone's in agreement. Like, I've argued with people about Maresca. We had, everyone's figuring it out. The guy is not good enough. He's never been qualified for this role.
But when people say he's not good enough, right, what were they expecting? He's had one season as a manager at Leicester where he won the championship, right, with the best squad in the league, and he almost threw it away after a brilliant start. We're seeing similar situation this season. Why were people thinking this guy was going to be good enough in his first season? Why did they think that?
Because everyone wants to look at that validation that he's the second becoming after Pep, because they think he's the Pep's regen. Everyone wants to look at that validation to our rivals that we hired the Pep's junior in our team. We literally just we've got arguably another Pep's minions. Let's just say. So I don't get our fan base just hyping that he's some sort of a great manager like Pep. No, he's not like Pep.
Mate, he was always going to make mistakes, and he was always going to struggle. This is his second season as a manager. The step up from the Championship to the Premier League is massive anyway. To go from a Championship club to a club competing at the top level of the Premier League and the pressure at Chelsea, what were fans expecting? And two, are we surprised that he's making mistakes and getting things wrong? Like, you're gonna take that job in his position. So yes, he's making mistakes, and yes, he's got to do better, and yes, he absolutely is to blame and is a significant problem at this point in time. But when people say get rid of him, I'm like, okay, fine. But two things: how on earth can anyone want the manager out and then have trust in the sporting directors to pick another manager and to pick the right one? Because that's not going to happen, because they done Potter wrong, Poch wrong, and this would be Maresca wrong. So when people sit here and say manager out, you're okay with the sporting directors picking another manager?
I think we're at the point where everyone's in agreement. Like, they all have to go. Like, I'm at that point. Like, the sporting directors needed to go anyway. That's a given. Shouldn't be here following the summer. They shouldn't have been here following the January window. They're not leaving. Maresca, for me, now needs to go. Like, there are certain things he's doing in terms of utilisation of players in this system that is just all wrong. Like, last night, for example, how many times does Nkunku have to play on the left wing, or just play anywhere outside of the 10 for you to go, okay, he's not it? How many times do we have to see Cucurella making better box-crashing runs? And fair play to him, he's actually done really well under Maresca. He's been
2 goals, but one of them was...
Mate, he's our top scorer this year.
He scored 6 goals since December. Like, it's nuts. But when we're seeing comical errors constantly, and for me, I'm angry at the game yesterday because it's stuff I shouldn't see, and it's stuff I shouldn't see against Legia Warsaw, no disrespect, but we won this tie on talent. We didn't win this tie because we outplayed them for 2 games. Over a course of 180 minutes, we outplayed them for 45.
So talk to me about the tactical side of things, what you're seeing on the pitch.
for example, like we in the game yesterday, and someone pointed out apparently did in the first game against Legia. I didn't see it yesterday. The entire first half we spent with 2 centre backs in our defence. Josh was inverting into the midfield, and Kukurea, instead of playing as a centre back, was playing left wing. So the entire first half we had only Tosin and Badiashile at the back, and we saw how well that worked because they both sucked. Especially Tosin, he was awful yesterday. Then you go forward and you see Nkunku is drifting in off the left, which is fine. That's where he has to play when he's on the left. But for the goal, he's on the far left wing while Kukurea is in his spot. And it's like, I'm glad because Kukurea is actually better. But at the same time, that makes no sense. You've got Palmer and KDH picking up the same spots in attack because they both want to attack in the same area. They both want to have that right half space. No one wants to have the left half space because it's not as comfortable for them because they're both left-footed. So it wasn't working. Sancho was decent. Jackson was just terrible. But this is just a culmination, and my worry is, and the reason I want him gone is we've got guys coming in the summer who I think can have a big impact here. Petrovic coming back, there's no guarantee he uses him. Santos coming back, I don't even know if he's going to play at this point. There's reports of him going back out on loan to Strasbourg if they get Champions League, and we don't. Esteval coming in. I don't trust him to use these guys properly. I don't trust him to use them.
But we shouldn't be in a position, right, where Esteval, under no circumstances, should be coming in and should be in a position where we're expecting him to contribute from day one. That is ridiculous. For an 18-year-old kid coming over from Brazil, if we put him in a position where he's expected to contribute starting from day one, what are we doing? Mm-hmm. We should be bedding him in with minutes here and there. He should be a rotational option to begin with. If we end up in a situation where we're pinning our hopes on Esteval to do something for us next season and contribute from day one, forget it. And
the other issue I have from Maresca as well, and it's something I mentioned earlier, you talk about rotation, his utilisation of the squad, and I was going to make this point when you were talking about Vega because I completely forgot. You have arguably the deepest squad, one of the deepest squads in the Premier League, and you're struggling to rotate. There are players that are currently not here, whether we thought they were good enough or not, because you failed to rotate them. You failed to give them adequate game time. You're trying to play Cole Palmer into form. He's gone 16 games, I think it is, without a goal. No, 17 with the game yesterday.
17.
Well, in all comps it is. Yeah.
In all comps, it's 17 games. I was on a stream yesterday and asked people, and there were 2 people that said, we don't think he gets another goal for the end of the season. That would be 26 games. He will go without a goal if he doesn't get a goal from now to the end of the season. At what point do you just say with Palmer, especially for the Conference League, just take him out of the team for a bit? Let's take him away. You saw what happened after we took him off in the first half against Legia. We actually got better with Nkunku in the 10, surprisingly. And we just looked better overall as a team. Just take him out of the game. Same with Jackson. We talk about managing minutes. He's just come back for an injury. Take him out of the team. But no, you want to try and play them into form, which isn't working and hasn't worked the entire season, just because you don't want to rotate this team. And I don't understand it. I don't understand why he doesn't utilise this squad better.
The flip side of that is, instead of rotating, just tweak your tactics. Play Palmer on the right.
Yep.
Give him an opportunity to play in a slightly different position. Maybe give him a bit more freedom. Because, we talk about, and me and Lewis have had this argument countless. I think Maresca's, he's regressing this team. I think he's regressed Gusto, a huge player from last year. I think he's regressed Palmer as well. Palmer's more creative, but he's not in a position to be able to contribute as much like he was last season and drag us across the finish line.
But on Palmer, just quickly, right? People say that Maresca's made him worse. He's actually created more chances this season than he did last season.
But it's not beneficial for us.
No, but
we don't have people to finish the opportunities.
Sure, but he's creating more opportunities, but he's missing more. So the reason why Palmer, on the surface, looks like he's regressed, but he's regressed because he's missing more chances. He's actually creating more chances for the team.
See, this is the other thing.
But then it goes back to
they say, we've had more shots, we're having more shots. Like, what do shots mean if they're not clear cut? This is another problem.
But it goes back to the recruitment of not signing a centre forward in the summer. Because
it's true.
Yeah.
Because if we signed, by that logic, you would continue to play Palmer in a position where he will contribute with more goals because you don't have anyone to finish.
I think he's going to contribute with more goals in the 10, to be fair, with the right. But the reason I want him to try him on the right is just he's experimented with the weird thing is, and it's interesting compared to what we heard with Leicester fans in the summer, he's actually experimented with a lot this season. Like, you look at it, he's experimented with inverting the right back, inverting the left back, having one of the wingers tuck in as the 10 and having an overlapping fullback at times. He's had 2 actual natural 10s as the 2 10s rather than having one of the 8s step up at times, depending on who's playing. We've had wingers at striker because of needs. Like, he's actually experimented a lot. But one thing he hasn't experimented, or he's done it twice the whole season, is Palmer on the right wing. And the reason I want it isn't because of the whole goal scoring and everything. It's just give him more time on the ball, give him more space. The center of the pitch is the most congested area in the pitch. Let him have the ball out wide, where he'll draw a couple of players, playing Kunku in the 10, who might be crap, might be good, whatever. Just see if it works. That's all. Just try it. If it doesn't work, cool. We know it doesn't work. It's the same with Jorgensen. I hope we talk about him. Awful. We now know he's awful because he's played. At the start of the season, you weren't playing him, and we were like, well, he looks better than Sanchez, but we don't know. We want to see more of him. He was initially, and now they're
he
about.
needs to go on loan.
Oh, they both need to be sold. Him and Sanchez. They're both terrible, but we didn't know until we saw. So you don't know something's going to happen until you see it. Like, I'm trying to think of it. What else? Like the Reece James in midfield thing. I think it's worked, but I don't think any of us expected it to work until we saw it worked. And I think that's the thing with these things. You don't know it's going to work until it works. It's what Pep does as well. Like, he'll try something, it works, he'll keep trying it, and the moment it doesn't work, he'll normally tweak it.
Yeah. Would you agree that every decision that we have made up until now, from the start of when we signed Enzo up until now, has been made more reckless in some ways, that it's more based on the data, not the eye test fact? That is why I feel like the talent ID, the talent ID wise from these directors has gone utterly bad though.
Yeah, but that's the problem though. When data is good, right? But data should only be used to support, as a supporting argument. Data should never be the primary reason for signing someone, because when you look at the numbers, right, the numbers doesn't give you leadership. It doesn't give you winning mentality. Yeah. It doesn't give you like all these things that are so important in a player. When you're purely basing something on numbers, you are taking a massive, massive gamble. And that's what our transfer business has been. We've basically just gambled on every single signing because the data's good. And we're hoping that some of these guys will become as good as we think they're going to become. The reality is, and I said this to you after the game, is that, and I've done it myself, and I'm sure we've all done it at times in here, this fan base have made out that a significant amount of these players are way better than they actually are. Right, and people can say, oh, it's the manager. If they were under a different manager and a different system, they might look better. Maybe they would, but the reality is we've got a lot of evidence now this season that these players are sixth in the league right now. The ceiling for this squad is fifth or sixth. That's the reality, and whether people agree with me or not is up to them. But for me, the reality is right now this squad is fifth or sixth best in the league. That is the ceiling, and to have spent £1.5 billion on players, and to have a squad that's got as many holes in as it does right now, and for our limit to be fifth or sixth is criminal. 3 years ago, when Newcastle got taken over, they got taken over the same time as us. We were reigning world and European champions. Newcastle was struggling to stay in the Premier League. Now, they've got a domestic trophy, spent a fraction of the money that we've got, and they're on course for a second Champions League qualification in 3 years. We have got 0 trophies and 0 Champions League qualifications in 3 years under this ownership, with over £1 billion spent. How is that possible for us to regress so much in 3 years and for a team like Newcastle to overtake us? Because Newcastle are ahead of us now.
It's because, like you said, it's recruitment, and I think that with what you said, there's a lot to unpack, and I think one thing I want to start on is the stats. Let's go back to the goalkeepers. I think I've said this on this channel before on streams, and I might mention some of you guys, but statistically speaking, if you looked at the stats, Robert Sanchez, I think, was in the 98th percentile.
He ranks
I think
highly.
he's in like the 98th, but this is to show you how bad stats are. He's in the 98th percentile for crosses claimed. He's in the bottom 5% for crosses faced. So what you're telling me is he just happens to claim the one cross he gets a game, which he doesn't actually if you watch games, but that's all that tells you. He doesn't face what stats also don't tell you is the team you have in terms of the style of play you have, who's in the team. For example, you might have a great long kick percentage, but you've got a Peter Crouch up front that can chest the ball down. We're now playing with Jackson, who he's nowhere near as good at doing that. So it doesn't correlate. Funnily enough, you look at stats, one of the worst goalkeepers in Ligue 1 last season was Matt Sells. On stats alone, one of the worst. He's been arguably for me the best keeper this year in the Premier League. I think he is either first or second in the Golden Ball, and I think he's been one of the best keepers. He was statistically one of the worst in Ligue 1 last season. But guess what? Playing in front of a better defence, playing in a team that you're more suited with, playing in a different system, works wonders. You also talk about the recruitment, and I think it's just embarrassing. I was thinking while you were going, I was thinking in my head, we have 5 written in pen starters in our team in terms of positionals. It's both fullbacks, both midfielders, and then probably the 10 with Palmer or wherever he ends up playing. 5. That's half a first team that you can say is written in pen. We've spent over £1 billion to have 5 written in pen starters.
Can I ask you this though, guys? Because I think that we still had a better squad going into the season than we had last season. So
I think it's negligible.
when we talk about the squad not like the players not being good enough.
But why is the squad better?
I think
why do I think it's better? I think
negligible.
that it was better just in terms of depth, in terms of quality. Like obviously January we kicked ourselves in the foot. But
I think
it's negligible because I think if you go signing for signing, Tosin's worse than Silva. No matter how bad Silva,
that's definitely one that I will concede.
If Fofana's back, but he's still injured.
If you go through all of them, you go through. I think Petrovic is better than Jorgensen, even despite the fact that people
again
Petrovic,
I believe that Maresca had a say in that.
I agree. I agree. But what I'm saying is that
not sure
we got rid
did.
of Petrovic on loan and we got in Jorgensen. Petrovic is better. That's a downgrade. Tosin's a downgrade on Silva, despite how bad Silva was for a large portion of last season. We got Neto in, didn't really replace him. We got Sancho in. That's probably an upgrade on what we had with Madrid.
We got Felix in, which I thought at the time was an upgrade.
Just so negligible.
Dewsbury Hall's a downgrade on Gallagher.
But at best, they're sideways moves. So I think at best we've got the same level of squad, maybe ever so slightly better with a couple of like a Neto or Sancho, and it's so negligible that it's not. But we haven't really improved. We haven't risen the floor with any of the signings, and we haven't risen the ceiling. You've just basically stayed where you are.
But the point you're making on we've got 5 starters, right? And I've made this point several times before. The number of players who are starting for Chelsea right now should be squad players. You know, Madueke. I like Madueke. He's direct. He's a goal threat. He's a good player. In a good Chelsea team, Madueke should be an option from the bench. Should be a rotational player. He's our best winger. You know, you've got a number of players starting. Nicholas Jackson, I like him. Good player, potential. There's a lot of things good. In a good Chelsea team, he should be a rotational option. There are too many players that are starting right now who should be squad players. And that is the issue. Like the money we've spent, you can applaud the ambition because the ownership have spent money, they've been prepared to spend money. You can applaud that. However, the allocation of money and the players that have been signed and the quality of players, it's abysmal. It is absolutely shocking. It is probably the single biggest waste of funds in Premier League history in terms of how this squad has been put together. You know, to have spent that much money and still need a top goalkeeper, a top striker, and a top centre back, that is unforgivable. That's unforgivable. It is unforgivable how window after window, the same problems are there, and they look at it and think, "Oh, we don't need to address that. It's fine." You know, that's where we are right now. Is that the manager has got a lot to improve on and is a problem, but at the same time as well, look at the tools he's been given, and people will say, "Oh, these players are better than Newcastle's players, or these players are better than Nottingham Forest players." Maybe as individual quality they are, but I'm telling you now, how many of these players gets in Newcastle's team?
None.
Do you know what's
Only
jokes?
Palmer.
Do you know what's really funny about that? Both our centre backs that started last night, Newcastle wanted as squad options.
Yeah, they did.
They did.
Yeah, Newcastle tried to sign Tosin last summer.
Newcastle were going to sign.
Yeah.
Newcastle were going to sign it. So when Botman was looking like it wasn't going to happen, he was going to go to a man. They were linked with Badiashile, and then because they got Botman, they went, "No, we don't want Badiashile," and then they were linked with Tosin last season to come in.
They were linked with Badiashile.
Both our starting centre backs last night would be in Newcastle's squad, not starting squad.
I mean, you look at Newcastle, for example, their front three's better than ours. Isak, Gordon, and if it's Barnes or Murphy or whatever.
Murphy's playing really well.
But do you know what's mad, right? Like, but this is an important point, right? You look at players who aren't really, fancied players. Could you imagine, right, the uproar in this fan base if Chelsea had signed Harvey Barnes, for example, or we'd signed a Dan Burn, or we'd gone and signed a Jacob Murphy or whatever? Could you imagine the uproar? But actually, I look at this and I think, yeah, you want top quality names. Yes, you want big names. But actually, I think there's a real arrogance amongst the fan base of players who come from smaller clubs, of players who, aren't really flavour of the month. But they will come in and they will do a job for you. This is why when I look at if we potentially sign Delap, if Delap comes, right, will it be an improvement?
Yes.
Yes, it will be an improvement.
Barely.
But it's not taking. Delap's probably taking you from here to here. You want to go from here to here. But my point I'm making is that we shouldn't be so against signing players who aren't big names. Because look at Dan Burns, look at your Barneses and things like that. If Chelsea had signed that caliber of player, remember when we were linked to Anthony Gordon under Thomas Tuchel, the outrage. Yeah. Oh my God!
Because his GA
oh my God! His GA's rubbish at Everton. Oh my God! It's Anthony. Oh, he plays for Everton. What? £50 million? You mad? Like, look at what Gordon's doing now. So, like, I think as fans, we need to stop turning our nose up at certain players because of the club they're at or because of what they've been doing.
I think when you talk about Delap, I mean, judging from what I'm seeing with you're obviously not keen on him. Me personally, I think that would be a good signing. I don't have anything against signing Liam Delap. Now, the flip side is, if you're giving me the option between Osimhen and Delap as an example, obviously I'm going to pick Osimhen. But I take Osimhen out of the equation entirely because I don't think we're even going to try.
No.
I think we're going to say that we're going to try, but we're not actually going to do it.
He'll go to Saudi.
I think realistically, Osimhen's going to another club. He's not coming to Chelsea. Gyökeres, again, like, what do we have to attract this type of player? I don't see it as a realistic option. Champions League football's not here. So then Liam Delap becomes the next best thing. 30 million release clause. You've got a proven Premier League player who can score goals in a rubbish team. So then you think to yourself, okay, well, at least if you whip some balls and you've got Neto.
Are we really going to sign players based on the fact that we're not in the Champions League football?
Well, it's not about what we want. It's about what the players want. Osimhen's not signing for us.
Osimhen, I don't think so. I think you get Gyökeres purely from like the Premier League kind of pool.
Yeah, but if Gyökeres has got Arsenal or Chelsea on the table, then
even United,
you're going to choose
like, they'll all
Arsenal.
offer more money than us. So what do we have to compete with any of them? The footballing project is not going as we want it to, and we don't offer the wages.
Well, this is where we're.
We have zero pull.
Well, this is where we're muddied. Like, there will always be pull for a certain type of player because it's Chelsea, because it's London, because it's the Premier League. If you're shopping from lesser clubs and younger players, no problem. Like, we'll be able to attract players. We'll be able to attract the type of players that we've been signing. However, if we're looking to elevate ourselves to the next level, we cannot rely on the Premier League and the strength of our sporting project, because our sporting project is in the bin. And if you cannot offer Champions League football, or you cannot offer comparative wages, then you are not getting to the table for any of these conversations with these players that are going to take you to the next level.
We seem like just, honestly, it sounds horrendous to say it, but we seem like a Spurs. We seem like Spurs.
Mate,
the way
we
that
are
we're doing
Spursy
business
right now. We are Spursy.
I mean, I heard that Chelsea are interested in Van Dijk if his contract was going to expire. I mean,
But
if that doesn't say Clear Lake all over it, then I don't know.
No, that would be unironically that'd be a fantastic signing.
But we're never going to pay him.
It's all opportunistic.
No, I agree. It's opportunistic.
But we weren't going to pay him 400k a week. So, like, what were they thinking? Oh, we were interested in him on a free. What, it was going to take like a wage cut of 50%.
150k.
I don't get it.
I think that wage structure is literally what happened to us. It's just that they kind of lowered the wage structure in some ways that we cannot sign.
But in principle, it's okay.
Yeah,
I don't mind it in principle. It's good that the wage structure has come down. However, there has to be exceptions when you're signing top players. Now, when you're looking for centre forwards, they're a rare breed. There's very few of them around, and there's very few good ones that are around. And you have to pay a premium to get that. And so for me, if it's a case of sign Delap, or you break your wage structure for an Osimhen, or you break your wage structure for a Gyökeres, then you need to go and do it, because the extra money you're spending on that player could be the difference between you winning trophies and you getting in the Champions League,
which will generate
way more revenue than you're actually paying on those wages.
It says a lot as well. Like, you look at some other clubs. You look at, let's go City. Their highest earner is Haaland. Arsenal, I'm pretty sure the highest earner is either Havertz or Saka.
I think it's Havertz.
It's either Havertz or Saka. It's an attacker either way. Newcastle.
It must be Isak.
I would wager it's Isak, but I could see it being like Tonali on Newcastle. By the way, if you gave them the money we've spent, if you gave them the money that we'd spent, slight tangent, they would have a title challenging type team right now. You look at the signings they made: Tonali, Guimaraes, Isak, Gordon. Livramento, Barnes, like all the ones they signed, they'd have a title challenging team. Anyway, my point is, you look at all of these top teams, most of them, their highest earner or their highest earners are attackers, because that's what you pay the most money for. Our highest earners are Reece James, defender, very good, but defender. Fofana, defender. Sterling, I'm not counting because we're trying to
Chilwell?
get rid of him. Ben Chilwell, defender, who they gave an extension to, who will be here till 2027 now, by the way.
Enzo.
No, it's not Enzo.
I don't think
it's
Enzo's that
It's
high.
Cucurella on 180. It's defenders. Outside of Sterling, it's all defenders. Like, the way they're building this team's backwards. And I agree with the wage structure. You need to bring the wage structure down. But you have to pay a premium for the best players. For Elise, you should have just paid him what he wanted. It's proving now he's about to win a league title, being not Dortmund, Bayern's second best attacker behind Kane. That was good. You've got Osimhen about to win another league title, win another Golden Boot in Turkey. Say what you want about Turkey and whatever, and it's not a good league. He's about to win another league title. Again, being a Golden Boot winner, this will be his second or third in his career. Gyökeres again, I think at one point was the second highest goal scorer in the world. Has something like 44 goals in 40-something games. Like, you have to pay these guys a premium to play. Marmoush just went and signed for City in the January window for like 80 million on 200k a week. Has 6 goals since he's joined. He has the same amount of goals that Cucurella has for us since he joined. He has more goals than any of our attackers since he joined.
But this is the thing though, like certain positions on the pitch, you have to pay the money. And so if you want to progress as a football club, then you need to do it. Now, I've got no issue with the incentivised contracts, lower base fee. If you perform better and the team does well, you get paid more money. I've got no problem with that. But ultimately, at the end of the day, we're not going to move forward as a football club if we're not prepared to pay above our structure on certain players, because ultimately you get left behind and the top players won't come, and that's just the reality. So if we want to be a club that's okay with not signing the top players, carry on as you are and be a team that might win the odd cup here and there and is going to be battling for 5th and 6th place most seasons. Or you wake up, you put the money on the table, you get the difference makers in, and you start being serious as a football club. It's very simple, and this summer will tell us if we're going to challenge over the next couple of seasons or if we're happy being that club who's a 5th and 6th place team.
I already know what we're doing this summer. Like this summer, I already know what signings we're going to make.
It'll be Delap, Gittins and Mark Gurhey.
No, it won't. It'll be Delap, Gittins and Huson, and then maybe some of us got a guy out of nowhere like we did with Neto, and that's going to be our window, and people are going to accept it. We'll have signed a striker. The whole Delap thing as well. This comes again to just not using your eyes and just going off of what you've heard. The entire season, we can say what he's done at Ipswich, and what he's done at Ipswich is fantastic. He's done all of that. You go and look at the moment he had against us in the draw when he came on. All of his moments for Ipswich pretty much counter, space to run into. You know, he's got time on the ball, which he's not going to get at Chelsea. Unless we're going to change system, he's not going to get that at Chelsea. So you're then relying on his aerial ability a lot more, which is okay, not brilliant. It's okay at best.
I guess the only positive of that is then you get to sack Maresca.
Cool.
But is that a positive? Is that a positive if they get McKenna or Liam Rossini? That's not a positive, is it?
Honestly, I think that both of them are better CVs than Maresca.
They don't. McKenna doesn't. The other one, who did you say?
Rosinia's taking Strasbourg to one of their. He's going to take them to one of their best league finishes.
Yeah, but he was getting sacked at Hull and Derby. So
Hull was a bit different. He shouldn't have been sacked at Hull. That was weird. But yeah, neither of those guys' CVs, ironically enough, is better than Maresca. Outside
at
of
management level,
it's not. Depending on what.
Not assistant manager. I'm talking about management.
No, neither of them. Again, like if you want to talk actual CV, neither of them CV is better.
McKenna's got 2 promotions with Ipswich.
Sure, but I'm pretty sure
he hasn't won anything.
League 1 though. He won League 1,
and he's about to get relegated.
2 promotions.
Hang on, he's about to get relegated.
2 promotions mean nothing.
He's about to get relegated.
By the way, I'm not sitting here campaigning for Ian McKenna to get the Chelsea job.
Kieran McKenna.
Kieran McKenna. I don't know why. I'm not campaigning for this guy, but. When we talk about CV, that's one of the biggest concerns for me. And people say, well, you should just look at what Maresca's doing at the moment. But I go, well, it doesn't work like that, because otherwise Jurgen Klopp wouldn't have had as much time at Liverpool to develop that team. It's because of what he did at Dortmund and his history, his CV.
Sure, but it's also because they believed in him, though. Mm-hmm.
Sorry?
It's also because they believed in him.
Because he's achieved things, because of the CV.
No, but also,
because of his success in the past.
But Liverpool aren't the club that just chop and change managers.
Yeah, but we're trying to move away from that. We're just shit at it. That's the reality. Like we're talking the talk about giving these 5-year deals. Like that. It's not 5-year contracts. It's 5-year charity contracts because they will leave before their contract is due to expire.
At some point, right?
Because they're incompetent. Because we're incompetent as a club.
At some point, though, a manager has got to be given more than one season.
Yes,
But I
but
think
Maresca's not the one.
I
We
say-
can all agree on that.
I
We're
think-
not. Let's not be silly here.
I think it.
We cannot look at this manager and say without.
But,
I don't know how you can say
so
it.
you're happy for the directors to pick another manager?
Do you know what? I'll be totally. But I'm directors out as well. Obviously.
Yeah, but that's the only way.
But
Maresca
even
out
if it's
is
the
the
same
directors go.
directors, I would still sack him because I think
and
he
you'd
can
be
do
happy
so
with
much
a?
better.
Would you be happy with a Kieran McKenna next season or a Rossinia?
I'm not saying I'd be happy, but
But you
I
think that,
despise
but do you think,
Maresca more than I've ever.
Do you think that would be better?
That's wild.
That's not going to be better.
I despise Maresca
Sure,
so much.
but
mate.
that's not going to be better, though, is it?
What does Maresca improve in this team? We've established that he doesn't bring a winning mentality.
Okay.
His system is not bringing the
One-dimensional.
fans
but
on board
you
in
do
terms
realise
of
the
the match
same
going
system
fan.
is going to be played by whoever comes in next. They'll
Not to the
they'll
same
play the
extent.
same style of
Not to
football.
the
'Cause that's
same
how Chelsea
extent.
want to play.
Not to the same extent. Attacking football is attacking football, and you can dress it up as tiki-taka, passing out. Listen, we know what attacking football looks like. It's passive. It is the least inspiring style I've ever seen in my life. I cannot. I was a fan of Maurizio Sarri. I feel like I've watched enough of that type of football and appreciated that type of football to say, you know what, fair enough, give him a chance. Maresca hasn't got a foot to stand on. He has absolutely zero to offer this football team. You know, Colwell's spoken about the fact that he loves training with Maresca, but what has Colwell done this season to prove that he's been developed by this
But
manager?
if we win the Conference League and we somehow finish top 5, you still want to get rid of him?
No, because he's earned the right to stay by achieving our targets.
Yeah, but
but
you just
we
said you-
we
yeah,
both
but- yeah, but you-
we
that's
both
disingenuous.
know
yeah, but
that
you
he
just
won't
said
achieve those
you
things.
hate. You
That's
just said you
disingenuous
hated
still.
him though.
I hate the style of play. I hate
Sure.
the way he manages his team.
Sure.
I hate his mentality. I think he's got a weak
Forget-
mentality.
but-
I think his
but-
mentality rubs off
But
on the
you're
players.
still happy for
I-
him to stay though, even if he gets Champions League football.
Not
even
happy
if he's
to,
saying
but
all
from a
those things.
stability perspective, it makes sense.
What
But
I-
that doesn't mean he's a good manager. It doesn't mean he's qualified. It doesn't mean he's capable. The whole thing is that he's not going to achieve those targets. He will probably win the
I
Conference
think we'll win the
League,
Conference League.
but
yeah.
we won't achieve Champions League. So the reality
No.
is he has let himself down. He has let the club down, and we have been let down by
But also,
incapable.
the club have let him down as well by not giving him the tools.
Yeah.
That is another argument that you're absolutely right, and he could have been back more. But then the question, we've just spoken about this as well, is will he be backed again? You've just said, right, we're signing these players,
He
not
has to,
fitted to his
he
system.
has to be backed.
If the
he won't
answer
be
is
backed.
no, that's more reason to sack him.
Hypothetically, if let's say if the board sacking the directors, Winstanley and Stewart, they're gone, and then the new directors, let's say Campos, what we talked about on Monday, Campos come in and then sack Maresca, I'm happy with it.
I think the
Well,
issue.
that's a good alternative.
I
I think
would
the
be
issue
fine
that
with
there
that.
is
Better
with sacking
alternative.
him, because I would sack him at the end of the season, but it's when they would do it because
Got Club World Cup as well.
we've got Club World Cup after that. Depending on where we get, we've got about 3 weeks till the start of the season. You would have to sack him, and I would, and all of them, the moment the Conference League final ends, which is 3 days after we end our season, by the way. So we're going to go away to Nottingham Forest with a rotated team to then play our best team against them.
It's a fucking joke.
It's just jokes. But the moment the Conference League ends, even if we win it, I'm handing him and the sporting directors their P45s the moment the Conference League ends. You give the new manager a month, just under, to train with his team for the Club World Cup. You've got those first 3 games, which we should be winning at least one of them, the Tunis one. Depending on who we get as a manager, Flamengo and whoever we face out of Club America or LAFC.
Oh, it's going to be a new team, innit?
I imagine it'll be Club America, if I'm being honest.
Unless,
Give him those games,
Yeah.
and then he's also then got the 3 weeks afterwards. But
But
they
if-
won't. Like if they're going to
if-
sack him, they'll do it either after the Club World Cup, which would be stupid, or they're going to do it in the middle of next
If
season.
you're making a change, right? If you're going to make a change, as Scott said, the new manager would have to be in for the Club World Cup.
Yeah.
Simple as that. If you're going to make a change.
Yeah, I mean the other argument is who do you bring in?
Well, exactly.
We're not
Yeah,
going to get an elite
No.
gaffer.
I-
I don't think you need anything elite to upgrade on Maresca. I mean, if I was to give you a shout straight off the back, a realistic one, probably say Areola from Bournemouth.
Well,
That's
I
realistic.
don't
I'd
even
say-
think he'd come.
I'd
I don't
say
think he'd
him
come.
or if the annoying thing is if I had my choice, I'm literally giving Inzaghi the world, like telling him he
But
can have his own. They're never going to do that. I'm giving him whatever he wants, but they're never going to do that. If we're doing realistic, I'm going either Iraola or Frank,
I
just
think you're
because
looking at someone like Marco Silva could be a possibility as well.
maybe he doesn't play the style of football they want, and I
No.
think The reason I say Franco Raiola is you look at what they've done, and even though it's not the quality we want, they have shown the ability to just.
But it's with lesser teams. Though.
It is, but they've shown the ability
Thomas
to like.
Frank is another very data-driven.
It's more they've shown the ability to just put players in the right positions to help them thrive. Almost what Poch did last season, but just with more tactical understanding and just not absolute chaos ball that Poch had us, which I find weird, by the way. The fact that everything you said about Maresca, you could attribute to Poch last season, and the fact you don't hate him more, I find extremely weird.
How? He gave players freedom. He allowed Palmer to thrive.
Yeah, but he was playing
Hang on. He
played a competent goalkeeper.
He regressed most players.
Who?
He regressed Enzo.
True.
Caicedo spent most of the season on an island.
Caicedo got better as the season went on.
He spent most of the season. Cucurella and Caicedo were both better this season.
By the way, I'm not sitting here saying that defensively we're the best, but for people to sit here and say that the way Pochettino developed players last season is anything similar to the regression that we've seen.
Again, I don't know who else. I don't really know. It's just not true. Outside of Palmer and Gusto, I don't know who he developed.
No, but the only difference, the only reason why people are saying they enjoyed the football more is because we had no team structure whatsoever. We had no control in games. It was just end to end, and from a neutral perspective, that's quite interesting to watch. But from a footballing perspective, it's absolutely shocking. But, you get games like the 4-3 against United. We have a lot of 3-2s. We'd be involved in a lot of high-scoring games. And that might be fun to watch.
But again, it comes down to mentality.
But there's no control.
We had
control. We had bottle, mate. We had bottle.
No, we didn't.
We had cojones, mate.
No, we didn't.
We
didn't.
No, we didn't.
Of
course we did.
No, we didn't.
What about when we beat United?
Hold on a second.
We lost to Old Trafford with a shocking performance.
But when you play that way, you're going to have games.
We dropped points against Sheffield. We drew 2-2 against Sheffield United, and we drew 2-2 against Burnley.
He played for the point against Bournemouth away.
Mate, you cannot. You seriously saying
you cannot say that we had
is a better manager than Poch?
Miles better than Poch.
We can't say that we had bollocks under Poch. No, I'm not
miles
having
better
that.
than Poch. Hold on a second. Hang on. You're telling me Pochettino in the space of a month. Pochettino in the space of a month went from I'm here to win titles to we haven't got a team to challenge.
Because he fucking realised what he was working with.
It took him a month to realise. Hang on, a month.
He was able to last 5 years working under Daniel Levy and couldn't even get.
Yeah, because there's no expectations.
And what is there at Chelsea?
I didn't say there are expectations. He's a bottler.
What have we got?
Mentality is
what
terrible.
Is the expectation here?
Alex,
we are Balance the Book FC. We are Accounting Firm FC. We are Pure Profit FC. We are Don't Win Trophies unless it's a Conference League. Prioritise that over the Champions League FC. What the fuck are we on about? Talking about we're some big club. We are fucking bottle jobs now. You've got to understand this. We are Tottenham. We are Tottenham wearing blue under this ownership. When will people figure it out? Like, what the fuck are we on about? Who's developing? We have plateaued. We have regressed under this manager. We have regressed under these sporting directors. We have got worse under this ownership. There's no ambition. We saw Egbali last night. We said, Egbali, do you want to have a chat? Fuck that. He doesn't want to have a chat.
Of course he doesn't.
No, of course he doesn't. Why would he? You wouldn't want to talk with anyone about this team because we're crap. We are so bad. How anyone... Like, I get it. Last season was uninspiring to an extent as well. We finished 6th. But the season before, we finished 12th. It's a clear progression. We got to a cup final and a semi-final.
But we
got fucked by Newcastle and we got knocked out of the cup by Brighton. What the fuck are we on about here?
It's way easier.
What are people defending Maresca for?
It's so much easier.
He is crap.
But it's so much easier to go from 12th to 6th than it is from 6th to 4th. It's way easier to go from mid-table to... It is. No, but it is.
But you can't tell... If you're telling me he's better, then he needs to be better.
Sure.
Not just in one aspect, in multiple aspects.
Both
domestic cups, we've been out earlier than we were last season. You
Agreed.
can't use the Conference League because we didn't have it last year.
Sure, we didn't have it last
year.
year.
You can't compare these things.
No,
Player development. Most players have not improved under Maresca. I could say last season there's a couple of players, all right, I'm not going to say the whole team, that really did improve under Poch.
There are more players that have improved under Maresca than have improved under Poch.
Oh, mate, it's not true, though.
Yeah, it is.
But
hang on.
Cucurella,
Caicedo, Enzo, Madueke have all improved under Maresca.
Oh, fuck.
Badiashile was better this season.
Madueke than
Is he not? Hang on. Is he not better than last season?
He's better than last season. He is better than he was last season.
Cool.
He is, exactly.
Badiashile's been better this season. For as bad as he's been better. He's better this season than last season.
Mate, but look, Caicedo for one did improve from the beginning of
but
last
still
season
better
to
this
the end.
season.
He's still better this season, though. That's the point.
Yeah, but you're so progressed last season, progressed this season. Both coaches progressed them.
Cool.
No,
So Maresca's progressed, has improved him. Yes.
He's improved.
Okay.
He's improved.
Fernandez agreed
How
as
many-
well. Cucurella improved under both
Yeah, but he's
coaches.
improved.
He's
much
improved
better
Jackson
now.
season.
improved much more last season than he did
I
this
don't think-
season.
I
From the
disagree.
beginning of
I
last
disagree.
season
I
to where he
disagree.
ended the season, from the beginning to this season
And the way
to where
he
he is
started
now,
this season
he
was
has
way better
gone
than what
down.
It's pretty
He
much the
has
same.
gone down.
I think Palmer's the one
Palmer,
that,
he's become more creative, so we're going to say this is some sort of tactical masterclass from Maresca. Creating for what? Nobody fucking
the crazy
finishes.
thing is,
Are you kidding me?
We've criticised that the whole season. We've criticised Maresca's in-game management the whole season.
Oh, that's not true.
We
We
did.
We even criticised it for like half the season.
Yeah,
Start
half
of the season
season.
it was good. This is the weird thing.
Yeah, like I won't sit here and say that I wasn't at Southampton away loving life. Of course I was, but again, I didn't know what to expect with this manager, and I've seen it, and I have given him chances. I would like to think I'm a patient fan. I think you're a relatively patient fan. You're a patient fan. Like, we're all quite patient, and it doesn't take one thing to, I don't want to say fall out of love because I was never in love, but you know, to lose faith in what you're seeing. And I could count on multiple hands the things that have gone wrong. And yes, you could say last season there's a lot of things that Pochettino could have done better, of course. There's always an argument for that, but I just think that, I mean, he is bottom of the barrel, mate,
there's
what
no
we're working
denying
with.
that he's struggling right now, and what he's doing is not good enough. And we've been shocking since Christmas, and we haven't showed any signs of improving, and you can't really see where we're next going to win a game. That's all bad, and that's absolutely true, and it's not good enough. But at the same time, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking two things. I don't trust these directors to appoint a better manager in the summer, and for continuity purpose, we need someone to last more than a season, because we're 3 years into this project now, and this would be a fourth permanent manager in 4 seasons under this project. That can't happen. Now, if the directors go and Maresca goes as a result, no problem. But for me, whether he's done well this season or not, I personally feel on the overall balance, I've probably seen enough to suggest that he deserves another crack with the full toolbox, with all the tools. Because we saw how he played at the start of the season. And so again, if we had a centre forward, we're having a different conversation. I know we don't, and it's ifs and buts, but if we had a centre forward who was clinical, we're sitting here having a totally different conversation about how the season's going. I'm not saying we'd still be in both cups or whatever, but we would, in my opinion, we've missed the most big chances in the league. Look at how many balls Neto puts into the box. Look how many chances Palmer's created. If you had someone who is a top-class finisher on the end of even half of those chances, a quarter of those chances, that's a difference between turning them losses into draws and draws into wins. We still would have lost games, but we wouldn't have dropped anywhere near as many points right now. We're 14th in the table form-wise since December. Only United, Spurs, West Ham, Ipswich, Southampton and Leicester have taken less points than us since Christmas.
Do you know what? It's like, I love to do this hopium that if we sign centre forward now, we have to give him that toolbox. What if it doesn't happen this summer? What if we could have
Well, then
going for the same thing?
Sure.
again?
Well,
It's just it's just like
I genuinely,
it's repeating the
I
same
might not
cycle
watch.
again.
I genuinely might not watch.
I agree, bro. Like, I agree that...
I might not watch.
But that's the problem, though, right? Let's say this manager goes, and then someone else comes in, and it's another crap window. We're just going to be having the same conversation about someone with a different name in a dugout. That's what we're going to be doing. All we're doing right now is going round and round in circles, like we've done for the last 3 years.
Forget that as well. Like, what about the other stuff, like the off the pitch stuff, the stadium?
Yeah, of
Oh,
course.
okay,
Like, that's
okay.
lots
Yeah,
of stuff that we.
but we're a mess on the pitch
Yeah.
and we're a mess off the pitch. The whole club is a mess. And ultimately, all this comes from the top because there's a weak mentality that winning, it doesn't really matter if you win or not. And that's set from the top. That trickles down to the directors, trickles down to the manager, trickles down to the players. Like, in every facet of the club, we are not good enough. That's the facts here. We're not good enough from top to bottom in terms of players, in terms of manager, in terms of directors, in terms of ownership, in terms of the mentality that's being set. The mentality at the football club right now is probably the weakest and most pathetic mentality I have ever seen supporting Chelsea.
Every single year has been embarrassing for one reason or another. You look at the first year with the amount of players we had and just trying to give like the whole mess with Tuchel when you sacked
people
him.
getting changed in the corridors at Cobham. There wasn't even enough space for everyone.
Having a near 40-man squad, you got Potter trying to do it. We ended up with 4 managers, was it, across the whole season, which only ever happened like 3 times, I think.
4.
Well, we had 3. Then it was Lampard.
No, we had 4. Bruno.
Bruno. Oh, yeah.
we had
Salter for
4
one
managers
game.
across the season. You then look at last season, and that was up until this season the worst performance by a top 6 side ever in the league. You then look at this season, even though it's going well in the league, you look at some of the nonsense that was coming out from like the players, like all that chill guy stuff was just fucking stupid. Like us being like, oh, what's a title race? I don't know what that is. We're just chill guys. Yeah, we're chill guys in 6th now. Great, as I heard Don say the other day on a stream. And you look at what we're doing in the Conference League, even though we're in it, we're just, it's just embarrassing. Like the way, I agree, like the way that our club has been run from top to bottom is embarrassing. We're just embarrassing. That's the one word we are.
But this is happening by design, though. The whole way that the club is being run is set up for this to happen. That's why this is happening right now, because of the standards that are being set at the top. Everything that's happening right now is because of the way that we're run. That's what it boils down to. And like, you know, we know we're not getting the ownership out. We know the directors are unlikely to go. This is why so many people are voicing their anger at the manager, because that's the only piece they've really got any sort of influence over changing, because the players aren't going anywhere, the directors aren't going anywhere, and the ownership aren't going anywhere. So that's why people look at the manager, because it's the only position that they have any sort of say that they could possibly change. But the reality is, you're just changing. If you change the manager, you're just changing one piece in the puzzle, and ultimately nothing's. If you change the manager, ultimately nothing's really changing.
They're doing this. They'll be doing the same thing with the manager doing the players, and that's what their entire plan, for lack of a better word, it's not even a plan, but I can't find a better word, there's been since they got it. It's hope. It's you hope you hit on one player.
Yeah.
You hope that like Palmer hits, fantastic. You hope Quenda hits. You hope Santos hits. You just hope a player hits. Because if they hit, fantastic. But if not, cool, you didn't spend that much money. You can flip them for profit or whatever. It's like it's the same with managers. You don't go and spend the big money. You don't go and get a big manager. You just try one of these managers. If it hits, fantastic. We've managed to get an obscure manager out of nowhere and it hits, and wonderful. If it doesn't, it's not the end of the world, lads, because we can go and find the next one, because, you know, these managers want this chance because they're not going to probably manage at this level any other time, let's be honest. And yeah, and just continue to hope.
But everything's a gamble. Everything this football club does is like flip of a coin. It's a gamble. It's like red or black.
It's not even calculated either. It's not even like we've done calculated gambles. Like it didn't work, but the Lukaku thing was a calculated gamble. It went wrong. It went horribly wrong, but it was a calculated gamble. We've done calculated gambles in the past, and it's gone really well. None of what they do is calculated. None of what they do is thought through.
I just want to ask like an open question as well, because I would say that even if you look at Potter's season, arguably the most unenjoyable season I've ever had following Chelsea.
Yeah, terrible.
Yeah.
But one thing I did have was almost like, we'll be back. You know, we'll be back. You know, we're Chelsea. I don't feel like that now.
Nope.
And that's the difference. Even though we're 6 places higher,
it's because of the evidence we've got from now. It's why, like, seeing what's happened previously and being able to move forward is a really good way of just being able to predict how things happen. Obviously, it doesn't always happen that way, but it's like it's the same kind of reason why I don't think we're getting another win for the rest of the season. You look at how we've played. I don't see where we pick up another point, because I just don't. If we can't play well against Brentford and Ipswich, how do we play well against Forest, United, who we never beat, Liverpool, and all these teams? It's the same thing. At the time, we had only a few months to really go off what they'd done. It was a summer window of, okay, we didn't have a sporting director. That was a mistake on their part. It was a lot of Bowley just trying to do what he could do. The January window was good for the most part. Like, wasn't as great as I think some of us realised looking in hindsight, but it was pretty good. We were hopeful for, okay, as long as you can do something now. Now you've got a summer window. Summer window is actually very good. What can we do? But it's basically since then a terrible January window.
The last two summers have been awful. The last 2 summers have been dreadful.
Not the last summer. The summer before wasn't. The last 3 windows have been terrible.
Yeah.
The 2 January windows and the summer window just gone have been absolutely atrocious. It's been some of the worst windows.
The last 3 windows.
Some of the worst windows we've had. 2 windows we didn't sign any. Well, we basically signed no one. And then this summer has just been atrocious. I mean, we talked about how bad it's been earlier. I think that's the thing. We're just seeing what they've done, and the fact that I can reel out 3 transfers I think we're going to do, and I think all of them are, most of us are like 90% sure they will happen, and none of them really improve the squad to a level we expect. It's just, until they show otherwise, like until we actually sign an Osimhen and put him on a 250 grand, 300k a week contract, until we go and get an Enrique type manager, until we actually do something like that, what else do we expect? We just got the same as what we've seen.
But we're not doing that. That's
No,
the thing.
that's what I mean. We've got to see what we've done before. This is what they've done before.
We're stuck in a
What
limbo.
they're going to do go forward.
Yeah, stuck in a limbo.
Up, down, up, down.
Yeah.
Now it is Father.
Yeah,
I can't be bothered, man.
yeah.
It's a
I
problem.
can't deal with this another season, you know. I literally can't do this.
But that's part of the reason why I like another manager change is just going to be the same conversations next. We might be having the same conversations next season if Maresca's still here, but we're going to have the same conversations whether it's him or whether it's another manager. You know, there'll be a little bit of optimism. Oh, it's a new manager. Give it a month into the season. There'll already be conversations starting. Oh, this is crap. Oh, we need a different manager. This guy was the wrong choice. Like, I can't be bothered to spend another summer talking about, oh, who's going to be the manager at Chelsea.
We'll see what happens, man. We'll see what happens.
Do you think
Father, we've got to wrap it up, I'm afraid. I'm
Go on,
sorry.
quick. Go on, quickly. Just
Go
do
on,
it.
Father. Go on. Be
quickly.
quick.
Finish it off.
I was gonna say about the lowest attendance last night, but
Oh, 29k.
Well, just classic, isn't it?
It's
Just
how
ticket
Chelsea is
prices.
right now.
Also, by the way, how did all those fans get those flares in? You can't even have a fucking water bottle in.
No, big up to the Polish fans. For
Yeah.
that.
hey,
Bring
shout out
some
to Madonna,
excitement.
man. Shout out to Madonna.
Madonna was there. Madonna was there as well.
Hey, Mandem's FC got started last night, drinking way too much milk.
They
That's
were
what
struggling.
happened.
All right. Well, listen, guys, let us know if you agree or disagree with anything we've said. And don't really know if there's much more to say.
Nothing else to say. Subscribe, like, thoughts in the comments.
There you go.
That's it.